5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
This is an Internet Network news break. IP Pingsley reporting. Our top story, the Great American Broadcast Network, otherwise known as GabNet, is now a TuneIn partner. TuneIn, the world's largest audio network, has joined forces with GabNet, the world's most innovative talk network. GabNet's partnership with TuneIn means that listeners now have 3 main ways to listen to GabNet programming: Gabnet.net, TuneIn.com, and the convenient TuneIn app for smartphones. To participate in the network's innovative citizen panels on GabNet programs, use Skype and type the handle GabNet Live, or call on your phone 347-352-0079. For more information on this network, its programs, and its hosts, log on to Gabnet.net. That's Gabnet.net. This has been an Internet Network news break.
Spotify has 180 million monthly users and access to 35 million songs and podcasts. Now, all those offerings are going to have to move over and make room for GabNet programming. Yes, at long last, Alex Bennett's Ramble, Damian Chaplin's Exchange, Jack Bishop's The Intersection, and even the franchise MC's Arena and Michael Snyder's weekly movie reviews will be fighting for space on this massive platform. Each day, the programs are updated, so you can hear them on the Spotify app, available for all smartphones and game consoles. Or you can just go to Spotify on the web at Spotify.com. So, give us a shot on Spotify. There's a 35 million to 5 chance we'll get people to listen to talk like they've never heard it before.
Hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett, host of The Ramble, heard here and seen here on GabNet, Tuesday through Fridays, live at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and I got some big news for you. Our program has moved its live video from Facebook Live to YouTube Live. After extensive tests in our GabNet laboratories of at least 10 minutes, our mind was made up and we've come to the conclusion that YouTube is superior not only in video quality, but audio as well. And then there's the ease of watching it. Here's what you do. Simply point your browser to youtube.com/Bolo Bennett /live. That's youtube.com/Bolo Bennett, BOLOBENNETT /live. And you're there. The player is waiting, and you do nothing, and when the show begins, so does the player. Couldn't be simpler. In fact, tag that page as a permanent tab on your browser, and you're ready to go. And if all of this is too vexing for you, well, just go to Gabnet.net near showtime, and the player in the middle of the page will start to play when we're on. We're thrilled with the new quality our move has provided, and while you're there, would you do me a favor and please subscribe to our channel? No, I beg you to. Hey, listen to me, I'm groveling, okay? I know, it's pathetic. I'm sorry, I'm debasing myself, and I really shouldn't be. Please.
5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey! Hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett and this is The Ramble, and it goes on from now until midnight Eastern Time on the East Coast of the United States, and we'll get to our citizens panel a little bit later, but of course we got to talk to our old friend. Ladies and gentlemen, we go out to the other coast of the United States of America where we check in with our old friend Larry Bubbles Brown. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! How are you?
Oh, yeah, just rolling along here, working with greats of comedy. Life couldn't be better.
The greats of comedy? Who?
I worked with, do you remember Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times?
Well, you should have said hello for me because he was my. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
I worked at WMCA in New York doing a talk show. And I had what they call a board op, or in those days we'd call them engineers, the guys that run the board. And it was Jimmy J. Walker.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So Jimmy and I go all the way back to then.
Well, he was, he kind of downplays it, but that show was, that's when TV had enormous audiences, and it was just, that'll never happen again.
Oh, yeah, and he was huge.
Yeah.
And what was funny is he used to say to me, "Hey, listen, I do comedy. Why don't you come down and see me at the club?" And I always meant to, but I never did because I had a great fear that then I would see him and then he would say, "What did you think?" And it probably would have sucked. So I never went. Little did I know, that he would turn out to be what he turned out to be. A few years later, when I was at Sirius, he came on the program, and he remembered me, and he told stories about what went on and stuff I didn't even remember. So
Yeah, he's a good guy, and I just remember that show. I didn't think it was particularly funny, but I remember it was huge at the time, and I think Letterman and Leno were writers on that show.
perhaps they were all writing at that time because they couldn't get jobs on TV or wherever. Right. In fact, I think it was I don't know if Jimmy Walker was ever a writer for Letterman. But
Letterman was a writer for Jimmy Walker.
Yeah. Yes, he was. You're right. I had it. See, and to the end of his show, Letterman would always have Jimmy on every now and then. He would have on a certain group of people that were his old pals, his old cronies from the Comedy Store, and he was very loyal to them. He
was loyal to his friends, and Leno, unfortunately, didn't have many comics on.
Well, there was one comedian, I'm trying to remember his name now, who died, but he had a long-term disease, and Letterman kept paying the bills.
George Miller.
George Miller, right. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. So, he very loyal guy. The funny part about Letterman is he never wanted anybody to know that he did nice stuff. And the fact was he did nice stuff. And he, would, for instance, when 9/11 happened, there was a fire department on the corner that lost quite a number of people in that situation. And he sent down food and clothing and everything, but he didn't want anybody to know. He didn't do his good works for publicity. Yeah. And how most people would go out and say, "Nah, he gave money to the fire guys down the street, blah, 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 blah. Look what a great guy I am." Letterman, in fact, told certain people who he did nice things, this is what I'm told, who did nice things for, that if they ever told anybody that he had done that charity, that he would stop giving to it.
Wow.
Yeah. So Letterman's philanthropy, which was not small, it was quite maximum, was largely unheralded because he didn't want anybody to know. And I think that speaks well for the guy, that you do good works because it makes you feel good, not because because you want publicity out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Look at me, what a good guy I am. Yeah.
So Letterman will go down in TV history as the second best late night host, probably.
I would say so. You know, I mean, when we're talking about quality, we're not talking about being a hit, because he wasn't. Leno pretty much had the numbers throughout all those years.
Yeah.
But he will go down, I think, as being one of the best. He certainly, I would say, would go down in history as the last of the traditional talk show hosts. Because what he did was the traditional talk show. Nobody does. Fallon doesn't do it anymore. I mean, Fallon does nothing but, let's play pie in the face, you know. And these actors and actresses lower their dignity to play these stupid fucking games, you know. And that's what has made this guy a hit. And he's really been a. I think he's terrible personally. I think he's just horrible. And it's not in the tradition. You know who's in the tradition of Letterman is Kimmel. Kimmel's very much the traditional late night show host. You know, and Letterman was his idol when he was growing up. So, it turned out. He is really the successor to Letterman, in that nobody else is. I mean, Colbert, come on, give me a break. Colbert's terrible, just terrible.
Yeah, how long is that gonna last?
And I hear he's a fucking asshole anyway. So.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, I hear that he's not considered too terribly nice. You know. So that's what that one is all about. I think that if I had to look at great talk show hosts, the greatest one of all time to me, was Jack Parr.
Yeah, I was going to say Carson, but Parr. You're right.
Parr was better than Carson, but he wasn't as successful as Carson. Carson was great. I mean, one night, I'll tell you, I was out. I remember when I was out of work at Live 105, I would stay up late at night. If I didn't have to get up early in the morning, I would stay up till 4 in the morning. Couldn't go to sleep, or I would write, or I would do something, or I was out doing something, and so I found myself out of work. And one night, I'm sitting there, and I tune in Johnny Carson. And I start watching him. And I say, this guy is the guy to watch to learn from. You know? I was amazed at the virtuosity of Carson, how perfectly he had that job down. And so I admired him for that. I just went, wow, he's terrific. But my idol was Jack Parr, who I felt best exemplified what a talk show host should be, and it's a combination of that. When all is said and done, the show is about him, and about his little adventures or his gripes or something that happened to him today or whatever. And then there was the guests. And he was just a great interviewer of guests because he let them go. He let them perform. He was terrific. He was just the best.
Yeah, but like you said, I think nobody opened up about personally like he did. That was.
Oh no, he taught me the art.
Which is what you did later.
Yeah, the art of bearing your soul.
Yeah.
I know people find that difficult to believe that was the thing, but it was difficult. He would bare his soul to the public. This is what's bothering me today. This is my pain and my anguish today. And he also was able to create heat behind him. Like there was a time when he was doing his show and he told a joke about a WC, which is a British term for water closet, which is a British term for toilet. And he told this joke about WC something. It was about it, and it was a British joke. And NBC censored it because they didn't want the word toilet on the air or any relationship to toilet on the air. And Parr went on the air the next night and said, you know what they did last night? They censored me for a British term meaning bathroom. That's how he put it. He said, I don't put up with this kind of censorship. That's it for me. This is my last show. Goodbye.
He walked off.
And he walked, he finished the show, you know.
Oh, yeah, I don't. Did he finish it? Wow.
He finished it. And then the next day, he wasn't there. And they didn't know where he was. I think he traveled to some foreign country or something. He just got out of Dodge. He quit on the air.
That's great.
And NBC was looking for him and begging him to come back. And he finally did. About 3 weeks later, he came back. But in that ensuing period, he was a headline every day in the newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a big story. So that's that, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's. He was amazing.
And he was a great interviewer. And you know, I learned a lot by watching Jack Parr. And Parr is one of the influences of who I am now. You know, this wearing your heart on the sleeve, I probably took it too much to heart, you know. Did it maybe a little too extensively. Like I'll tell you every time I'm not feeling well, you know. But I did that. And in fact, I walked off my show in San Francisco. I don't know.
I remember that.
You remember it. Were you there?
I wasn't there, but I remember. I think you were like Parr. You left the state.
Something was going on, and I don't know. I had some comedian on that was just horrible, and I just said, I think I've taken about as much as I can take of this job. I said there isn't enough money in the world to have me keep going on like we're going on today. And I think I turned the show over to Lori. And I just said, goodbye, everybody. And I got in the car and I left.
You went to Oregon.
I went to upstate New York, upstate California.
Okay.
Up near Klamath Falls because I knew some people up there. And I just disappeared. Even my business manager, Gary, I think I called and said I just quit on the air, and then I said I'll see you in a couple of days. And I disappeared, and they didn't know where to find me. You know, and finally, I think at some point I came to my senses, because at that point I was making like about $300,000 a year at that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, what are you, a fucking idiot? You know, and who's going to hire you after you've done this, you know? So I kept checking my phone, and my boss, everything was Ed Cramp at the time, kept calling. Where are you, Alex? Alex, we need to talk to you. We need to talk this out, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I called him back. I said, what? And he said, come back. And I said, okay, I'll come back. Yeah. I think I played it kind of coy, like, well, I don't know if I should. Please come back, you know. And
I should remember that. I forget how long you were off the air.
I think maybe a week. You know, but if I think about it, if I were to now go back and suss it all out, number one, it was a stupid thing to do, but and it had an effect on other people. I mean, I liked Ed a lot, my general manager, and he had to put up with it. But if I think about it, I was probably channeling Parr.
Yeah.
You know, and what he had done. And, I don't know that it got me a great deal of publicity. Do you remember? Did it get publicity anywhere?
Oh, people were definitely talking about it.
They were talking about
Where's
it.
Alex? I can't. This is bringing back memories. I'd love to know who the comic was.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, he was just so bad, and it was just nothing was happening, and it was. And I just went, I don't need this, I mean, and when I came back, I think I suddenly became more particular about who I had come into the studio, and be on the air with me.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone that does morning radio, I'm surprised more people don't just snap. Those hours just can make you psychotic.
Well, the hours never got to me. Although I'm a night person, because when you're born, you're either put into a diurnal, which is daytime, or a nocturnal pattern. And my father being a musician, I got put in a nocturnal pattern. Mm-hmm. So my mother would keep me up till 2 in the morning so I could see my dad when he came home from a gig. So I really have always been a nocturnal person. So when I would do that show, which was a morning show, I would force myself to go to sleep at like 11 o'clock at night. I would get a nap in the afternoon and then 6 hours of sleep at night. Okay? Thereby giving me my total of 8 hours. And it was always unnatural to me because the minute that I was out of work, let's say when they fired me at Live 105, all of a sudden the next day I was up till 4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Because my body is a nocturnal body,
right.
So now, is your body nocturnal or?
I like to go to bed between 2 and 3 and get up between 10 and 11.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Of course you get up early for me, don't you?
I'm generally up by the time you call. So.
Yeah. But so anyway, so I drink coffee a lot, and I try to wake up. And it seems now, as I get older, I'm tired most of the time. So just sitting around here waiting for death.
You and me both. I feel tired all the time too.
Yeah, I just screw it. The Grim Reaper is looking for me, I had an image
about it more and more.
I had the image of the Grim Reaper with his scythe over my shoulder yesterday.
Well, I think I was going to ask you. Somebody was some guy who died in England on stage a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, and then I looked it up. I Googled people that have died on stage. There's like 77 or something.
Well, because performers keep performing till they're really old. It's not at least in the old days, it wasn't something that age claimed. I mean, the classic one, of course, was what's his name? The guy who was in The Producers.
Dick Shawn, who died while on stage. He was doing his act, and he just collapsed and fell to the ground. And had a heart attack. People thought it was part of the act, and nobody did it.
They all started laughing, and nobody went over to help because they figured it was all part of the act. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't. He was dead. But you know something? He was lucky. He went in the middle of doing something he loved. Mm-hmm. I assume he loved comedy. He did it so long,
No, he was great.
Yeah, excuse me. That's part of my death rattle. I'll tell you the story that I had a friend, Marshall Efron, who was an actor and comedian. basically known in New York City. You know, those were the days when people had local fame but not necessarily national fame. And if I showed you, I could show you Marshall. He's been in several films and so on. Kind of a fat guy. I don't know if he's still alive even. I haven't even looked him up. But he had waited for years to get on the Dick Cavett show. He wanted to do the Dick Cavett show because it was the only, I think at that time it was the only New York City talk show. I think Carson had already moved to the West Coast. So if you lived in New York, you wanted to do the Cavett show, and he got his debut on the Cavett show. And Dick introduces him, and he does his stuff, and they laugh and giggle and everything, and now it's time for the second guest. And the second guest is a guy, Rodell, who owned a Prevention magazine, I think it was, which was a health magazine. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there all talking, and Efron is doing some of his comedy stuff while Rodell is there, and all of a sudden I hear this gurgle. And they look over, and Rodell is dead. What they were hearing was a death rattle, which is a sound that the body makes as you're dying. He died, and the subject of his lecture when he was on the Cavett show was how to stay in good health. And he dropped dead right next to Marshall Efron. And I often asked Marshall, I said, how did you feel? He said, it was horrid. He said, you're talking, and all of a sudden this guy next to you drops dead. He said, but you know what was even worse? I said, what? Well, they never ran the show.
So he got screwed up.
And because they considered him a jinx, they never invited him back.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. It was like, you would think they would say, well, come back tomorrow or come back next week or we'll set you up for another day. No, they didn't want him back. He was bad luck. So this guy Rodell dies. Boom. That's it. That's all she wrote. Fuck you. You know, but fuck him. He wrote a book on on good health and eating herbs and spices and, you know, whatever. And then he dies, you know. It's kind of like, the happiest day of my life was when Jim Fixx keeled over and died. This was a guy, in case people don't remember Jim Fixx, who had a whole business based on his thing, Jim Fixx on running. And he was a big runner, and he would run like crazy. And he would say how you could stay healthy through running. And one day he went out running, had a heart attack, and died. And I cheered. I literally fucking cheered because I considered him so goddamn obnoxious. You know.
Don't forget Yule Gibbons.
Yule Gibbons, remind me, he was the naturalist, right?
He was the naturalist who was like, yeah, I think he did commercial for granola bars, but he come out eating, you can eat pine cones.
You can eat wood chips.
Like
yeah, wood chips for dinner, right.
Yeah, they are nutritious.
Healthy eating, and then Yule Gibbons died, of course. I think it's wonderful when those guys die. I don't know why. I just relish in it. They live this perfectly healthy life, and then what did they get out of it in the end? Death. You know. So
I think we've mentioned this before, but the first man to walk on the moon didn't exercise because he felt you have a finite number of heartbeats.
I don't know that I don't disagree with him, you know, but apparently some people have less or more. I don't know. Hey, listen, we've kind of run out of time here, Bubs.
It's been very uplifting talk about death.
We always love talking about death. Death is my subject with you.
I would love to see that Cavett show. God.
Yeah, well, you'll never see it. I'm sure it's somewhere in a vault, and Cavett is never letting it out. Anyway, talk to you next week, Bubs.
Good talking to you, sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bubbles Brown.
5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yeah, and that's Larry, and that's Bubs. That's our old friend Larry Bubbles Brown. We love him. You love him too, don't you? Huh? Come on, admit it. You love him. Yeah, it's just somebody to talk to for a half hour. It's not an interview. It's just, kind of like hanging out, two friends, chewing the fat, as it were. So anyway, I'm turning on the Skype lines. I've been doing this show for better or for worse for the last couple of weeks. While my machine was out being fixed, it wound up in, I think it's Houston, Texas. To be fixed by Apple. And now I see online that it is being readied for shipment back here. So hopefully I will have it tomorrow or the next day. But I still have to take the backup drive and reinstall everything that was on that drive, which doesn't take that long. But then I don't know if I want to plug it in and maybe not be able to do a show. Maybe I will try that and just warn you that the next night I might not go on because I might not be ready. But we'll take it a step at a time. Meanwhile, I got this machine down here, the cheese grater we call it, and we're hoping that it will be a lot better. Oh, here, somebody's calling already. Yep, it's Phil Meyer, ladies and gentlemen. We got him on the line. First of all, let me put him on, let's see here. There we go. I found him. Okay. And he's the first one to go on. And let's see what happens here. There we go. There's Phil. Hi, Phil.
Hi. How you doing? I don't want to talk on this machine. I want the new machine. I want this old machine.
One, we have to warn people. I turned it into a different thing, so maybe it'll be better. I'm having it do a different way of recording, so that maybe it won't use up that much. Okay.
All right.
So, let me see here. Where is? First, we got to get a picture on Charlie Wallace before I can make him part of the citizen panel. Charlie? There you are. Okay.
Hello.
Now, let's see. Are you here yet? No, you're not on the list yet. Hold on a second.
Charlie, he's doing a show on the old machine. Do we really want this? I mean...
we have to... Well, we do it on the old machine because we can. It's what they call the old cheese grater. But I was watching something online last night on YouTube about the Mac Pro. And the whole argument about the Mac Pro is that they feel that it's not as good as the cheese grater was in many ways, because the cheese grater, you could put stuff in and so on,
That's true.
And this one you can't.
But Apple doesn't want you putting stuff in anything.
They don't like you putting stuff in anything. Hello
right.
there. We've just been joined by Jeff. Okay.
I know.
And I'm still in sync. Okay. So we'll just wait and see how many people it takes to put me out of sync.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of that. There we go. And let me get rid of that. Okay. So then we have to add those later on. Anyway. No, the cheese grater, in case people don't know, there was an Apple they made that had a whole bunch of holes in it. They call it the cheese grater. Because it looks like
Parmesan out of it?
It looks like you can actually probably take some cheese and grate it on the damn thing. But then again, you would really fuck up the machine. So, I don't want to deal with that.
But you'd have a hell of a pizza.
Yeah. And this machine, I got to tell you, because everything is replaceable in it. If tomorrow the power supply goes out, I just order a new power supply. Boom, it's all modular, right?
It's too bad you can't upgrade the board.
The trash can. Show them the trash can again, so they can see what we're talking about. That's the machine I got. That's called the trash can. What I was going to do with it, by the way, was if I couldn't get it fixed, I was going to keep it and put dirt in the top of it and put a plant in there. But and that's a very powerful machine, but it's not modular. In other words, you don't have hard drives you can put in it. With this thing, with the cheese grater, I can put in memory, I can remove memory, I can put in new CPUs, I can do everything with it. So what I'm thinking of doing is playing around with this and making it into a better machine. But time will tell. Anyway, so how were your weekends fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine wasn't at all.
Now, what'd you do?
Huh? I did nothing. I did nothing. Yesterday I had a follow-up appointment at the place where they pulled my tooth. I don't know what they needed to follow up on yet. Still gone, you know. And
Well, did they give it to you so you could put it under the pillow for the tooth fairy?
You know something. I really think they should give you the tooth, and here's the reason why they should give you the tooth. It's yours. There's a crown on that tooth. That
it's worth $1 if your mother sees it under your pillow.
It's got to be worth something.
Oh. Well, especially if it's got gold in it.
Huh? Yeah. You know, it's got to be worth something. So, you know, I think it was a gold crown, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And but they don't give you the tooth. And you go, I wonder what they do with the tooth. I know what they do with the tooth. They sell it to somebody. Yeah. And do they give me a break? No. I imagine, I wonder if I asked for the tooth if they'd give it to me. I think they would.
So it was actually a gold crown. It wasn't just a porcelain cap.
Well, no, it was gold and then covered with porcelain. You know, but supposedly gold crowns are very resilient, and you know.
Mine must be pot metal.
Hell, I've got a couple of crowns. One.
Hey, you do sound like Lou Ferrigno.
1, 2. I have 2 crowns that have been falling apart over the years, but they're still fine because they're back there to begin with, and they still are tooth. You know, it's just the porcelain is kind of chipping off of it. So
you know, a lot of people your age don't have their own teeth. You know, they're candidates for those pop-in ones.
Well, but I can't use a pop-in. I asked this other doctor, the people who pulled my tooth about the what do you call it? About the
implant?
They call it a chipper. Now it's called chipper. Everybody's got a different name for it.
Oh, not clipper.
Then he said, well, I wouldn't get it because the tooth in back, it grabs onto both the teeth. The tooth in back has been losing some gum, okay? And that might exacerbate it. I said, am I going to lose that tooth? He said, no, the tooth's fine. It's just you've got a lot of tooth showing because the gum is receding, and this would not help it. So everybody is convincing me that I've got to go for the implant. I can't get a clipper, right? Because that's not supposedly that good, and I can't get a bridge because on one side I have a implant, and the implant has its own very specialized crown that you don't want to remove. And a bridge is like if you have 2 good teeth on either side, they grind them down. If not, if they both have crowns on them, they pull the crowns, and then a bridge has 2 crowns, and then the fake tooth in the middle, and that's why it's called a bridge. All right. So I'm not a candidate for that. The only thing I'm a candidate for is the implant. So here we go.
You want to feel good about the implant? I have a friend that used to work for a company that made the implant caps. It was called Ivoclar Vivident, and those things are $35 a piece to the dentist.
Really?
Yeah, and they have to put it in an oven, and it changes the molecular structure of it. But and the oven costs $165,000. But the actual little cap is $35.
$35, and how much does he charge you?
No, $35 is for the thing. It goes to the dentist. They sell them to the dentist.
Oh. Well, I had a girlfriend who used to her job during college was delivering dentures and dental things and so on, and crowns and so on to dentists that were made by this company that she was delivering for.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Do you know how much a crown costs?" The dentist.
Yeah, the one for the implant is
Yeah,
$35.
No, but I said the crown for she said a crown for your dentist is half of what your dentist charges for it. He marks it up 100% and then sells it to you.
Right, because
I've
the
heard that
lab,
before.
if you take the what the lab has, they're just taking an impression, and the dentist takes the impression, the lab pours some shit in it, and gives you your crown.
Well, you know what?
And then the dentist fits it back on.
You know what we should do? I mean, we're always talking about, what do you call it? Health and medicine and the cost of medicine and so on, and how we can make it cheaper. And the president even says he wants to do something about what do you call
cost
it?
of medicine.
The cost of medicine. A little out of sync. It drives me crazy, of course.
Don't look at the screen.
Yeah, right. I'm going to put a big thing over it. Anyway, what was I going to say? We don't make. I don't hear anybody complaining about the cost of dentistry. And about the fact that your
I
dentist.
complain about it all the time.
Yeah, but your dentist charges you double what he pays for the crown. In other words, he pays if your crown costs you $1,200. Let's just say arbitrarily.
But there's labor involved.
What do you mean? They just put the thing in, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but to do that, he's got to have an office. He's got to have billing staff. He's got to have the hygienist. He's got to have the assistant.
No, he doesn't.
Everything's got to be covered in plastic.
No, he doesn't.
He's got to boil his shit.
I'm against that.
So you don't want boiled tools?
Yeah, I'm against those doctors you used to say to me, the reason I charge so much? Why? Well, I have to pay for my college. I said, you're 60 fucking years old. You paid for that years ago. But they always
had the Obama.
Jeff has his hand up, and Jeff knows about this shit.
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff.
If you're going to charge $50 to buy it from the lab, and the dentist is got to sell it to you, he's got to double it up. Sorry, that's pays for him getting paid for, the secretary doing it, who's ever the same stuff that
all right. I would say that
have to agree with Phil.
If the item was $10,
don't tell anybody else.
If the item were $10 or $100, and he charged me $200, I wouldn't gripe. But when he's charging me $1,500 because he's getting it for $750, I think that pays very nicely for his rent, or part of the rent, or the amount of time I'm spending with my ass in a seat where he's paying rent.
Yeah, but you should protest the lab then. So you're pissed at the lab for charging the dentist too much money.
No,
it's not the dentist.
Here's what we should be able to do.
It's Trump's fault.
No, I should be able to go to a store, a place, a lab, and say, I'm missing a tooth here. Make up a tooth for me. Okay? All right.
But you don't want it to be fitted,
wait a minute. Just make it fit it. Make the crown. Okay? Then I'll buy the crown from you, and then I will take it to a dentist who will then install it. And then I'll go around looking for a dentist who's the cheapest dentist for installing it, because what kind of a big whoop is that?
Well, that's why our medical costs are sky high, because there's no transparency. Let's say you need brain surgery.
Forget about let's not talk now about general medical, and I'll tell you why. Because dental and medical are two entirely different animals.
Okay.
To begin with,
you got a flat tire.
Try and get really good dental insurance. Not possible.
Doesn't exist.
Well, I have $2,500 a year. Pretty good. Okay, not bad. All right. I mean, I'll get a implant for $4,000, and it'll cost me about $2,000. All right. So that's pretty good. But basically, dentists are not being hurt and impacted. Funny term to use for dentists. Impacted in the way that doctors are. I feel sorry for doctors today. I feel sorry, for the rent they have to pay and all the people they have to have working in order to pay to do the billing and so on, and getting money out of the insurance companies. But dentists don't have
Joe Palooka dentist.
Dentists don't have the same problem.
Sure they do.
No, they don't, because they're not living with whatever Medicare will pay them, whatever the insurance companies will pay them.
They're living with what you'll pay them, because what they got to do is you walk out of there and you're full of Novocaine. They're not grabbing your money. You got to send them a check or give them a credit card, and then you say, hey, look, make it in 5 payments. So they're toting the note on top of it.
Toting what note? My dentist always wants all the money the minute I walk out the door.
Well,
how about yours? I don't know what dentist you go to.
Mine never asked me for the money.
Oh, really? They don't? Well, they do it for free?
I send it.
They take pity on your teeth?
No, I just send it,
No,
they've never asked.
As we're leaving in New York City, hand us your credit card, pay for it, and we'll bill your insurance company who will then send you money for it.
That's because you're 79 and they're worried you won't make it to 80.
I'm worried I won't make it to 80, okay? So, as I said to Bubs, I mean, every day I feel I'm waking up with the Grim Reaper behind me,
Yeah. Well, it's all about proximity. Let's see. Today, you had a shooting in Charlottesville at a college. What was it? Sunday, you had a shooting at a synagogue.
But still, we shouldn't do anything about guns, huh?
It's not the guns.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If
it's not the guns.
And what they said was, the guy in the synagogue.
What did these people die of? Imaginary bullets?
No. But what they had was they had a gun there at the synagogue. So what's happening is, I think that churches, synagogues, and so forth are going to start to armor themselves so that they're not soft targets.
Why? Yes,
because if they don't, you're still going to have these animals that want to do harm to them.
I think that we have to just change the mood of a nation.
There was a guy they just arrested. Jeff, I know you want to talk. There was a guy that just arrested.
Jeff wants to talk, but you're not going to let him.
Well, let me just make this one point to cap it off.
Yeah.
There was an Army guy who was arrested because he was trying to buy bomb making equipment to do a major thing, and I think they arrested him on Sunday.
Really?
So instead of using a gun, he purchased 3-inch long nails that he was going to put in these pressure cooker bombs to do maximum damage.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it's a gun or anything else. You just got people out there that want to do damage.
We've been joined by Eddie Jordan. Hi, Eddie.
And Jeff wanted to say
is it the guns or is it the people? Or is it the people's ability to get the guns? Give you a choice of 3.
It's not an easy answer.
Yeah.
Jeff wants to say something.
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah. So one of my experiences, I don't know if you guys remember, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, a number of years ago, I don't know what it was, 5-6 years ago, they had the same kind of thing happen. A bunch of Muslim people actually came in and killed people in the synagogue, and it was the oldest synagogue.
It's the one with the sand floor, right?
Buenos Aires. So I went there, and I went there with my friend Carlos and his wife and my wife. And Carlos goes, I've been here many times. He says, he says, I'm a Catholic guy, but I went to a lot of bar mitzvahs here. So he says, I know all about the place. And I says, well, I'd like to go see it. So I go there, and the door is locked. The first thing is, I knock on the door. Guy comes out with a gun. And he goes, who are you? Why do you think you want to come here?
I'm Jewish?
I did. Right. I said, here I am. and I'm Jeff Stein, whatever, and my friend speaking Spanish with me, my wife, whatever. So we told them who we are and why we come in. They says, "All right, wait out here," and they didn't let me in. And they said, "I want to get somebody to come out and check you out and make sure you're okay." So we wait, I don't know, 10 minutes. A rabbi walks in and he checks us out.
Did he frisk you?
You know, I don't think he did. I don't think he did. But he had a cop with him. I mean, it was, whether it was a private cop or what, I don't know. But it took me a while to get in there. And then once we were in, he gave us a tour and told us all about the place. And it was very nice and very interesting. But their security was very tough to get into there.
Now, this was where again?
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires.
Argentina.
Yeah.
Twice I've helped a friend provide security for a synagogue, armed security.
Mm-hmm.
And the one, they had a speaker, and the other was the service. And but other people do it all the time. But, they needed somebody, so he asked me.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I've been to another synagogue right here in Connecticut where on Saturday they had a cop there.
Well, people say to me, "Do you go to synagogue?" And I go no, and they're always going, "Well, gee, you should," And now I have an excuse why I don't go.
It's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous.
Should we be frightened by these maniacs? Should we
listen?
let them...
I didn't go to a synagogue before. I don't know why I should start now. Just to
Yeah. Last couple times I went, I was armed.
I've gone. I mean, I've gone. I was there for my bar mitzvah. Okay, I was there for my bar mitzvah. I was 13 at the time, and when
that was a dying.
When my father died that year, I went to the Kol Nidra because my mother wanted me to go. So I went. But the reason, I'll tell you the reason. I'll give you a good reason why I just don't go to synagogues. I used to go a lot more, but then I was in the military. Okay, and I was in the Navy, and I was stationed in Hollywood, which, don't give me a bad time about being stationed in Hollywood, because it's one of the most dangerous places in the world. And no enemy planes got past Santa Monica Boulevard on my watch, so I did my job. But anyway, I called up I think it was the Beverly Hills Temple, and because it was the high holidays, and I wanted to go to my father had died while I was in the Navy, and I wanted that year to go to the Yom Kippur services and for the singing of the Kol Nidra. And I called them up, and I said, I would like to come. When are your services and stuff? When is the Kol Nidra going to be, and so on? And they told me when, and they said, but it cost $250. And I went.
Then you were probably getting $250
I said,
a month.
well, look, I got to tell you, I'm in the Navy. My father died this year, and I want to go to the Kol Nidra. And they said, too bad, you ain't got the $250, you don't come in. That was the last time I ever went to a synagogue. Because somehow to say there's a price on religion, if you want to say there's an honorary fee or and when I said I was in the military, I thought the next thing they were going to say was, well, of course, military people are allowed in here for free. Not at the Beverly Hills Synagogue.
But you can't, I'm not a religious person, but you can't condemn all synagogues.
Listen, that synagogue will probably still let Harvey Weinstein in, okay?
They can afford it. They get $250 a seat.
Yeah, but I mean, I found that wrong,
Yeah. And most people would.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah,
most people would.
I found it. So ever since then, have I been? Well, I was in a synagogue one other time when I had a rabbi marry me. When Ronnie and I got married, we got married at a temple, but it wasn't a service or anything. It was in his office, But that was that. So,
Yeah. Well, Yeah, it was a tough weekend.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend. And if it isn't synagogues being shot up, it's Islamic temples being shot up. If it isn't Islamic temples, it's high
Sri
school.
Lanka,
It's high schools. You know, forget the other countries. Let's deal with ours. Ours is a very unsafe place in which to live right now. And I'm just saying, unless you do something about the guns, you know, unless we come to terms with guns.
But you'll never say unless you do something about the mental health. That you won't.
I will say that too, but unfortunately, we don't ever think about that either.
Well, it's the mental health we got.
All right. So a guy goes in, he shoots up a synagogue. What should we do with the guy if we catch him?
Well, you know what he'll do is...
No, what do we do with the guy if we catch him? I'm asking you.
They'll try to prosecute him. They'll probably say he's a nut, and that they'll put him in a mental institution. And
shouldn't he be? Isn't that where he should be? Because you just said they're crazy.
Yeah, it is where he should be.
Okay, so you don't believe in executing him?
It depends. I mean, if they find out that he's not nuts...
Wait a minute, Phil, please explain this one to me. A guy goes out, buys a bunch of guns, walks into a synagogue, kills 50 people, and then you are going to have the temerity to go into a court of law and say this guy is not crazy?
Parents of the guy said he was off his meds.
Phil, anybody who kills another human being is crazy. Okay?
Not necessarily. Some do it because they're just full of hate.
That's crazy. Don't you understand?
Crazy.
Apparently, you don't have an idea what crazy is.
But if they know the difference of right and wrong, and they chose to do it anyway, somebody who doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, he's hearing voices, he's doing all of this shit like Son of Sam, you know, David Berkowitz.
Eddie,
was he crazy?
Eddie, what's crazy?
Well, if you're killing somebody in self-defense, is it crazy?
No, that's not crazy.
Going into a synagogue or a high school.
Yeah.
And just, for whatever reason, whatever excuse you use, it's crazy.
It's crazy. So I guess we have to deal with them as a person who is crazy, as opposed to, that insanity is a defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, but you said that, a lot of times they won't accept.
You asked me if I believe in the death penalty. And if a guy goes into a store, holds up the store, shoots the clerk, should he be given the death penalty?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
have you gone through any of those checkout stands?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe he was crazy.
Yeah.
But he had no intention of paying. He got the pack of Cools, he got the rum and Coke, and then he shot the guy, and there was nobody in front of him. So that guy isn't crazy.
How does that make us any better than he is if we turn around and kill him? Ritualized murder is, I think, just as bad as wanton murder.
Well, if the guy went in and robbed the store, we're not going to kill him. If he went in there and shot people in cold blood, the guy needs to be taken off the face of the earth and buried somewhere 6 feet under. It's one thing. The punishment must must fit the crime. It's called lex talionis.
So if somebody robs and rapes somebody, then lex talionis, or whatever you call it, would be to go out and rob and rape him.
Because that's a crime. But
jeez, you get too many butts. Too many butts. Look, Phil.
Is not putting somebody to death.
It says in the Bible. Okay, if you want to use...
The Bible doesn't make the laws.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Yes, the Bible does make the laws. Most of our laws are based on the Bible, in fact.
No, they're based on common
law. They're based on the Bible. They're all very religious in nature. And in the Bible, it says, thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill except.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, because Hammurabi's code is where
yeah,
you get
It's
the punishment.
It's Hammurabi, by the way.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Is where you get the punishment must fit the crime. Raping and robbing is not killing. So therefore, if you incarcerate a rapist and a robber, that's one thing. But if the guy
do you know
murdered,
do you know in California we used to execute rapists?
We don't execute anybody.
Well, no, but I'm saying back in the day, Carol Chessman was a perfect example of that. He never killed anybody. He was charged with kidnapping and raping. And what made it? Why do you say kidnapping? Because he moved the person 10 feet from one place to another at gunpoint. Supposedly, he claims he didn't do it. But in California and in the United States, rape was a punishable by death crime. Do you think it should have been?
Not in today's world where you can just say,
No, Phil, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you about your morality and whether you think we should.
No, I don't think rape should be.
Okay, so were we wrong in raping people? I mean, in killing and executing people
for rape?
Yes.
Probably, yes.
Okay. So now, how about if they kill somebody else? Are we wrong to execute them?
No.
So what you're doing
depends on whether it was an accident. There's different degrees to murder.
Phil, you know what the difference is? People who get executed don't have good lawyers, and people who have good lawyers don't get executed.
Okay, if you're in a car and you're drunk driving, and you have a head-on collision and you kill some teenage kid, should you be put to death because you weren't really in control of it? It wasn't you meant to go out and kill somebody. It wasn't like the guy that walks in and puts the pot bomb at the Boston Marathon finish line and wanted to kill people. He should be put to death.
Well, I am I'm against the death penalty because we don't really. If we knew 100% of the time, if you could assure me that 100% of the time everybody who ever got executed was guilty, then I'd say you probably had a good argument. But you can't.
Well,
but you can't.
You got to make a mistake here or there.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the problem. We make mistakes, and we can't afford to make those mistakes. And those mistakes aired on the side of blacks in America, people who couldn't afford lawyers. I mean, who didn't have the proper defense, or because of the area in which they lived, they were executed.
Well, we have better ways of doing things. We have DNA evidence now.
We don't have better ways of doing it. Yes, we have DNA evidence. We have that sort of thing. But to do that kind of thing, takes good lawyering, and it takes the ability to be able to hire a good lawyer in order to make sure that the DNA is done and that it's accurately done. And you can't say that a person who's relying on a I'll give you an example. I've got a guy I know who's on death row in San Quentin. All right? I'm not going to say that I don't think he's guilty because I read what he was accused of doing, and I think, when they accused him of 5 murders, I would say that there was a good chance that he was guilty. All right? But his lawyer, he could only rely on a what do you call it?
A public defender.
Well, no, a person who was doing it pro bono.
Oh.
Okay. Fell asleep during his trial. Right? Now he's never been executed, and he probably never will be, because in California, right now, if they start executing people tomorrow, they'd have to put them on each other's laps in order to, get it done fast enough. I don't know why they even keep death row at San Quentin, or why they keep the death penalty still open, or have they done away with it?
They make movies there.
Have they done it yet? Have they gotten rid of it yet?
I think they have.
They
took
have?
the lethal injection chair out. It was
Well,
on
I
the
know
news.
that. No, they took no. They took they took the gas chamber chair out,
Ah.
and they just as a lethal. They use the chamber. This is funny. They use the gas chamber as the place where they put the gurney to give a lethal injection. Why they did that, I have no idea. Just get
The
rid of the whole
observation
damn.
room?
Get rid of the tank and just But they didn't do that.
Well, this way the people that are observing can't hear the screams
Oh, is that it?
because it's a glass-in room.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyway, I just I'm so against the death penalty. It's ridiculous because you can't guarantee me that everybody who's executed was truly guilty of what they did, and we know that we know of any number of cases, hundreds in fact, of people who have been proven not guilty after the fact. But too bad, you're dead. So.
Yeah, this is true. It's just that sometimes when the deal is if you're convicted to a jury of your peers, and not everybody just wants to go home for dinner.
Yeah. So how are we gonna stop all these people from shooting up places? What's the Phil Meyer plan?
To arm everybody.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you see,
Welcome
if it's
to
not a soft
they
target,
used to arm everybody. It was called Dodge City, and they used to shoot each other in the streets.
works. But you know what?
What do you mean it works?
The states that have concealed carry seem to have the politest people. In Texas, and Charlie will probably realize this. In Texas, before they allowed concealed carry, when that woman Richards was the governor, I was there. I was in a taxi cab, and I was watching the road rage going on. Another time I was there,
Phil,
I'm in a taxi.
I worked.
They had concealed
I
carry.
worked.
Everybody was polite.
I worked in Houston, Texas, and at that
was
time in
Dallas.
Houston, Texas, you were allowed to carry a gun. Okay, you had to carry it as a sidearm. You couldn't do it concealed. You had to wear it on in a holster on your belt. Okay, and so then we would come in on Monday, and I'd say, well, what news do we have today? And Richard Dobbin, who was my newsman, said, well, let's see, there were about 10 murders this weekend, but that's an average weekend, and we don't consider that news. So there's your carrying guns state.
Where they don't allow guns in Chicago, how many do they have there on a weekend? 70?
You can get guns right across the line in Indiana.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
allow. It's against the law. It's against the law.
If you made
It's
very
not-
if you made
it's not a
very
federal
tough
law.
what? It's not a federal law. You're absolutely
There is no
right.
federal law that says you can't own a gun. There's a federal law that says you
Yes.
can. It's called the Second Amendment.
No, the Second Amendment doesn't say that, Phil, and I'm not going to go through this with you again. But
Yeah.
I don't know how you interpret it, but it says in order to maintain a well-ordered militia, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Wait a minute. It specifically states in order to you have to be part of a militia.
No, any
Well
militia.
regulated.
Well,
A
it's
well-regulated,
the
a well-regulated
citizens,
militia.
and it's to make sure that you don't have a tyrannical government that wants to create all sorts of regulations so they can tax you $5 trillion because the end of the world is coming in 10 years. Mr. Beto.
What are you saying? You're
Beto today said, or yesterday said, that the end of the world is coming in 10 years. You see, he's doing one up on AOC. She says the end of the world's coming in 12 years. He says I can do it in 10. And Trump, he's only trying to do it in 6 more. But but then he says he needs $5 trillion to do that. And then the guy I like, Yang, he says he wants to give everybody $12,000 a year guaranteed income. And they asked him how he was going to do it. And he said with a 20% VAT tax. So, all of these guys are nuts. But as far
So's
as
the guy you're voting for, Donald
I
Trump.
didn't say I was voting for him.
He's
I liked him on the Democratic side.
No, I said that your guy's a nutcase.
My guy is doing to Pelosi and Schumer. You remember the old joke? Would you sleep with me for $1? No, I wouldn't do that.
No.
Would you sleep with me for $1 million? Yes.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, now that we know that you're a
Yeah,
hooker,
we're bickering over the
it's just
price.
a matter of bickering over the price.
Yes.
So the first conversation with
who is credited with having said that?
you, but
No,
with
who was credited with having said that?
I don't know. George Burns?
No.
Who?
Winston Churchill.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I didn't know he went with hookers.
No, this happened to be a very well turned out woman that he was arguing this with, and he said to her, "Would you go to bed with me for $100?" Oh, boy, it was. I think he started with $1 million, and she said, "Well, maybe."
Yeah.
And then he said, "How about 25 cents or something like that?" She said, "What kind of woman do you think I am?" And he said, "Well, we've already established that. We're just bickering about the price."
Right. So
See?
Schumer.
So
and
if you're going to
Pelosi-
tell the story, tell it so it's
well,
funny.
You're the comedian here.
I'm not a comedian.
well,
Do I look like a comedian to you?
You do now. So, and you tell the jokes better. Well, anyway, Schumer and Pelosi meet with Trump in the White House, and they come up with a number.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke. Pelosi and Schumer meet in the White
A
House.
bar. $2 trillion for infrastructure. And they come out of the White House and they said, yeah, Trump didn't ask us to do this or that or the other thing. He just said, yeah, okay, you want $2 trillion? Yeah, well, $2 trillion. And so, and he didn't ask for anything. Well, this is just like that joke. What's going to happen is he's going to say, well, I also want the wall. I also want, the DACA thing taken care of. I also want immigration to be taken care of, and I want this and this and this and this and this, and then
Phil,
we'll fix the
I
roads.
want you to answer me a little question here, because it all comes down to the wall. That seems to be Trump's big deal, is the wall. It turns out that the wall hasn't been built, even though he says they're building it right now, and yet everybody goes, where?
I was
Here's what happened.
I was told 400 miles of wall was built.
No, 400 miles was there already. Okay,
Well,
what
he
they're
fixed some,
doing,
and he
what
built
the Congress appropriated money to do was to reinforce it because it was falling apart. But there hasn't been an inch built to that wall, and he says it's being built right now, and people like you and his minions go, oh, see, we're building the wall.
Well, hey, and now he's going to charge, if you want amnesty, when you go to rent an apartment, sometimes they want you to pay for the application. Well, he just took that and he said, if you want amnesty, you got to pay for the application. And that means...
What does that have to do? I just asked you about
the Mexicans will build the wall.
No, Phil, all I'm saying is the guy lies through his fucking teeth. He hasn't built an inch.
Well, he says he has.
But he has. I don't care if he says he has. He's a lying piece of sack of shit fuck.
He said his dad was born in Germany, too.
So, maybe he was.
No, his dad wasn't born in Germany. His grandfather was born in Germany, and their name isn't Trump, it's Drumpf.
So he could have said my granddad. I mean, you're slicing
In
bread
fact,
too thin.
John Oliver had a thing on his show a couple of years ago where you could go online and get this program they had made up. And Marjorie has it actually installed in her computer, and to this day, every time the name Trump comes up, whether it's in the New York Times or wherever, it comes up Drumpf.
How does the spell check deal with that?
It has nothing to do with spell check. It has to do with the fact that everything that says Trump on her computer says Drumpf.
That and 15 cents won't get you a token on the subway anymore.
But anyway, I just thought that. By the way, is anybody else going to call? I still have 2 more spaces at least on this part to fill up, and I'm still in sync, and I'd like to see if some people can put me out of sync. Charlie, what do you think of what we're saying? Wasn't I right about Texas? That in Houston, Texas, on a Saturday night, people go around shooting each other.
You had a lot of road rage with the guns where people would get out and shoot at each other.
Yeah.
See the movie L.A. Story? Did you see the movie L.A. Story? They said it was a rite of passage. It was springtime, and Chevy Chase is going down the 405 shooting at people with a 357, and they said, well, it's springtime. It's a rite of passage in L.A.
Yeah, very funny. As you were saying, I was talking to Charlie. Charlie, I mean, you lived where when you were in Texas?
I lived in Austin.
You lived in Austin?
I did live in Houston for a year.
Yeah, Austin's a little bit less crazy than Houston. Dallas is batshit nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And San Antonio is nice. But Austin, Austin, you probably had the gun problem there. You certainly had it with what's his name, Whitman, the guy that went up to the Texas Tower
Charles
and
Whitman.
started shooting. I was there at the time, not in Austin, but in Houston, and I think that was the first event of that sort that we can remember. I think that kicked it all off. Yeah,
he started it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old Charles Whitman.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. They used to rob banks and stuff like that and shoot up the places. The Bonnie and Clyde stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's just that he went up in a tower and got the advantage.
Yeah, but most of those people that robbed banks with guns didn't kill anybody doing it. If it happened by accident. They just used the guns as a threatening device.
So they weren't crazy.
No, were they crazy or weren't they crazy? They were a product of the Depression.
The guy who used to rob the trains, didn't he say he robbed trains because that's where the money was?
That was what's his name down in L.A. And it wasn't trains; it was banks.
Yeah,
And it was what's his name? It was
Dillinger.
No, it wasn't Dillinger. It was the guy in L.A., the L.A. gangster, Mickey Cohn.
Oh.
And he said, "Why do you rob banks?" And he said, "Because that's where the money is." Yeah. But I mean, I just
Willie Sutton.
Willie Sutton. That's who it was.
I had to look it up.
Yeah, it was Willie Sutton. You're absolutely right.
Google is.
Yeah, and I was right
Good
about the
job.
quote, though. It was about banks. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
Well, who was the guy that robbed the trains?
I don't know.
It was before those guys.
By the time of Willie Sutton, there were no trains.
Jesse
carrying
James?
money.
Maybe it was Jesse James. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he didn't say that. It was Willie Sutton who said it.
All right.
When you looked up Willie Sutton, Eddie, did it say that? Did it attribute that quote to him?
Yeah. I put in the quote and it came up Willie Sutton.
Yeah. Okay.
He
So
had a
Phil's
book
wrong
called
again.
Twitter.
Everybody have a drink. Ah, boy. Well, that's all I got to talk about tonight.
Well, I found the most delicious water, which you could go in the Gabnet store. It's called Flow. It's an alkaline spring water, and this one's organic strawberry and rose infused.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
So did anybody watch Game of Thrones this weekend?
No.
You missed one fucking great piece of television.
Well, don't tell me about it.
I missed the whole series.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
If
It's
you
on
never,
Netflix.
I got to tell you, if you never saw that show and you watched only that episode, you'd be very satisfied by it. Believe me. You don't have to know who's doing what to who. All you have to know is on one side you got the human beings, and on the other side you've got the army of the dead. The army of the dead. Okay, and that's all you need to know. And it is an hour and, 20-minute battle. And it's perfectly staged and perfectly parceled out. And it's as good as any movie I've seen. It was just that good. Well, if you didn't see it, more people saw that than saw anything else on television last week. And it looks as though it had a total audience of 17.8 million viewers for the first watchings, both streaming, on demand, and a rerun that ran later Sunday night. It says 12 million people watched the episode live. So that would put it as the top show of the week for that sort of thing.
How many people saw JR get shot?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm just because I thought that was the top.
Well, well, in those days, you only had 3 fucking networks.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have much to choose from, so you either had to watch JR get shot or, some game show or, whatever.
Jack Tarr.
But that's quite an audience. It was the biggest audience HBO has ever had for anything.
Wow.
And it was just that.
HBO was just bought by who?
HBO was just bought by AT&T.
Yeah. They were happy about that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're not happy about it because they never saw the profits off of Game of Thrones. What they have gotten, I would imagine, the idea in doing great shows like that on HBO isn't in order to make money from commercials or anything like that, because it's non-commercial, but it's to get more subscribers. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of subscribers. They don't have as many subscribers as Netflix, but soon all that's going to become it's going to become this big hodgepodge of who's got what when. And Netflix may have some problems coming up. What with the emergence of the Disney app. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. Will this new landscape, the Netflix, Disney, HBO, or AT&T, just be the new NBC, CBS, ABC?
No. No. Totally different model. Those were networks. They ran shows. They ran shows day and date. Right? They ran shows day and date, and they ran commercials in them, and that's how they existed for the longest time.
Several of the other ones run commercials, unless you pay extra.
Which ones? Right, pay.
Doesn't Hulu have commercials?
Yes,
except if you pay extra.
Except if you pay $4 more extra, which I do, and then you don't get commercials. But there are no commercials on Netflix. There are no commercials on Amazon Prime.
Because it's subscriber based.
They're going to be no. You're saying, aren't these the new networks? No, they're not, because the networks weren't.
Yeah, but they rely on advertising, whereas these other ones rely on subscriber and streaming. So it just means that this is the new paradigm for the way to watch, but it's really boiling down to 3 or 4 players, just like there were 3 or 4 networks, except maybe the paradigm has changed a bit.
It's paradigm.
I'll give you a quarter.
Yeah. The fact is that it's a whole different way of presenting programming, in which it's pay TV. That's it, plain and simple. We always talked about pay TV. Remember years ago at the movie theaters, they used to stop pay TV. Remember that? Those they used to have things saying stop pay TV. And yet here we are, and people would go, and people would go, oh, well, I never pay for TV. Or what? You get it for free.
Got an antenna.
Then HBO came along. Well, that ended that one, And everybody,
Well, it was
when it
more
first
than
started,
HBO, it was just cable.
no,
You
no,
know, it
no,
was-
no,
a clear
no,
picture.
no. Let me explain cable to you, Phil, so you know how what cable was back in those days. Cable existed. It was called community antenna television, is what it was called. And what it was is you'd have a town like, say, Klamath Falls, Oregon, where no TV signals got into Klamath Falls, Oregon. So the guy who owned the big TV store, the store that was trying to sell TVs but couldn't because there were no TV signals in Klamath Falls, Oregon, created put up a giant antenna up on a hill, and then ran a cable down into town, and then started spreading the cable all over town. And if you bought a TV set from the guy, he'd let you latch onto the cable. And that was the beginning of cable TV. That's essentially what cable TV was. It was community antenna.
So now the antenna then became a satellite dish?
No,
Is that
no.
no?
The basics of cable were then born. I mean, you had a cable, and it delivered programming to the homes. It was then HBO that came along and said, well, we're going to start running. They were going to run movies. That's why it was home box office, okay? They were going to run movies. And they started running a service with movies. And you had to pay, I think at that time, $6.95 a month, okay? And I bought it, so I could watch movies. But it was all day and date. I mean, it wasn't like you didn't have HBO Go where you could do it delayed and whatever. And so HBO grew, and that was the first of the pay TV outfits. Then you had CBS came up with Showtime, and there were a few others. And they were around for a while, and then all of a sudden...
Did you do the Netflix where you send away for the 3 movies?
Never, never. I thought that was the stupidest idea I ever heard of. Because I, in those days, was buying laser discs anyway. So, I didn't care about, sending away for a movie.
Yeah. I know a few people that did that.
Well, I think what Netflix did... and what they eventually became.
Oh, look at that!
It was very
Charlie sent away.
They were going to withdraw that service, Charlie. They were going to do away with it, and too many people complained. There are a lot of people still renting. I mean, I'm sure that if you go to the Netflix offices and you try and find the place where they send these things out, it's like in the basement somewhere.
But you can get movies on the DVD that you can't find on the broadcast. Now, I've never done the rental thing, but I've looked for movies. For instance, your friend Bob Rubin was in a movie, Something 2, right?
But Boondocks, yeah.
Boondock.
Yeah.
You can't find that on Netflix.
Well, come to my house. I've got it.
Okay. In September, I'm thinking about running a marathon.
Mm-hmm. You're thinking about running a marathon?
Yeah. The Tunnel to Towers. We're one of the sponsors. And it goes from it's 5.3 miles, but it's through, you go from Brooklyn to.
I bet you don't make it more than a mile and a half.
I could walk.
How many here are putting money on him not making a mile and a half? Will you raise your hands,
I'm supposed
please?
to raise money to donate to the Stephen Stiller Tunnel of Towers thing. Yeah, come on, put some money on it. I'll crawl across the finish line.
You'll crawl across the finish line? Okay.
I'll probably have to.
Yeah.
Or they'll push the gurney
Well,
across.
when is that?
It's in September.
Well, I'll probably be dead of my cancer by then. So.
Okay. Yeah, let me see. I think I put it down. May, June, September. September 29th.
By the way, I'm not going to be doing a show on the 21st of May.
Yeah.
Because I am... first of all, Albert's coming up. And he's coming up because I wasn't going to go to something. And he said, if I come up, will you go? And I said, yes. So he's coming up. And on the 21st, they're holding a celebration, a 3-hour party, celebrating the long history of WPLJ here in New York, which is now about to end its life because it was sold to somebody else and they're turning it into a religious music station.
Oh God.
Always was.
So it's the end of WPLJ after I think 35 years. And so they said anybody who wants to attend who is a member of WPLJ's alumni, just write us and tell us you're coming to the party. And so far, 300 people have replied. The thing that makes me significant among those people is that I'm among the first group that were the staff, live air staff, at WPLJ. So I go back further than just about anybody who'll be in that room. So I feel like they probably won't even know who the fuck I am. You know, because they'll all go, well, I remember when Scott Shannon started this, and we were over there in, you know, in the 1980s and blah, 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 in the 1990s. Oh, when did you start? 1972? You know? Oh, 1972, huh? And your name is? You know. But I remember it. I mean, it was, that was quite a station. Quite a station when it started. It then just became another piece of shit, but you know, it's my opinion. So I'm going to go to a party that night, and it goes from 6 to 9, but I don't think I'm going to get back in time to suddenly get this thing up and running. So, you know. Also, later this week, I don't know, I might be off one day just to try and reinstall the old machine. Either that or I'll just wait till the weekend and do it then.
Oh, and tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's Phil free, so tell your friends.
I wish it were Phil free tonight. Jeez.
Oh, I can arrange that.
It's you know.
I got more stuff.
You got more stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, we got the Mueller challenges bar spin on media coverage frustration.
Well, Mueller said that he felt that Barr's distillation, his 4-page distillation of his 446-page report, was not sufficient.
No, what he said was, let me see if I can find the sentence, but what he said is that he felt that the way he explained it, that he was correct in his explanation, but that it may have misled, or the media didn't get the right message from what he said. But he didn't have a problem with Barr's, Barr's interpretation of the report.
He said, from what I read, he wasn't satisfied with it.
No, it was only because he felt that the media.
Where are you reading
could,
this
question.
from? Where are you reading this from?
Breitbart.
Mueller, Barr. Oh, wait a minute. Let me find it there. Oh, Washington Post.
And because what I read was that Mueller had said that he was not happy with the distillation, that he felt it simplified it too much and glossed over it.
Well, he talk for a minute. Let me find the exact sentence that he.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find it somewhere, Phil.
No, it's a Washington Post then.
Yeah.
Oh, Mueller wrote. Oh shit! I just touched something and it went. He said something about. He says there's public confusion, or there could have been public confusion about what he wrote based on the synopsis.
Yes, he was unhappy with the synopsis because it did not accurately distill
he felt
the
it
information.
Caused public confusion. He didn't feel that it wasn't accurate.
No, he didn't say it was accurate.
Yeah, he did. Actually.
No, did he say it was accurate?
Yes.
Where did?
I'll find it in the same article.
You'll find it. Okay.
Here's a Washington Post. It says.
Yes, Eddie.
It says did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of Mueller's work.
Phil, did you hear that?
Yes, but he also said that it was correct in its conclusions, although it may have because it didn't capture the all the work that he put into the 448 pages. He felt that it might have been confusing for not only the media but the public. And the other thing
wait a
is,
minute. I'm getting two different versions of this. I'm getting your interpretation, and I'm getting Eddie's interpretation.
Well, I'm looking for the exact sentence that I read that gives the accurate description.
Yeah. Let me see here.
At least some of the major concerns with Mueller's letter makes clear that he doesn't believe Barr handled the context of the report accurately, which lends credence to the analysis that Barr skipped over Mueller's actual justification for concluding that Trump had obstructed justice. In fact, if you look at Mueller's report closely, you'll see that there was multiple instances in which he indicated there was evidence that President Trump's conduct satisfied three key criteria for obstruction. Barr has apparently been under fire.
Hold on a second. We're being joined by who are we being joined by?
This is Tim.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Tim.
It's a conspiracy.
Tim, what did he say?
Well, it's my understanding the important part was the attachments that Mueller had attached, redacted summaries of each of the sections, and was very upset that Barr did not submit those to Congress. And
he did.
He was upset. There was also a phone call, Phil. And in
a 15-minute phone call.
Yeah, and the basic gist of it is Barr had no business drawing his own conclusions.
Of course he did. He's his boss.
Hey, Phil, don't talk over me, please. Let me finish, then you can talk. The fact that Barr was in no position to make conclusions himself that the stuff should have been given to Congress, because only Congress can take action against the sitting president. The Department of Justice can't. And also the letter was March 27th from Mueller to Barr, and in the hearings, Barr on April 10th told Congress, when they asked him, how did Mueller feel about your report? And he said, I don't know. So now it's possible perjury on Barr's part, because he said he didn't know what Barr's response to the 4-page report was.
Was Barr's testimony, was Barr's reading of the letter a press conference, or was it sworn testimony?
No, it's sworn testimony in front of the committee.
No, it wasn't.
That's why, watch the news tomorrow. They're going to ask Barr back, but we really don't need to hear from Barr. We need to get Mueller in there, and the DOJ is stonewalling that. So my understanding, the guy that wrote the regs, Richard Payal, if Mueller just needs to resign, and then they can't prevent him from testifying.
Okay.
But the whole bottom thing is, William Seyfire had an op-ed years ago when Barr was there before that he's a cover-up general. They called him the cover-up general.
All right, yeah, it's another conspiracy.
No, it's not a conspiracy. It's a known fact what he did with the pardons.
Yeah, even amid the blowback against Barr's initial summary, though it was clear that Mueller himself personally disputed it.
Anyway, it's got to come out in the rest of the congressional testimony. So I think the beginning of the end is coming, probably, because the White House can't stonewall everything, because then they don't have a leg to stand on in court. You can't use specific arguments in court when you're using a general argument to withhold evidence. So it's going to take a while, but the end is coming.
Well, I think the big question here is if there's no reason to, why are they stonewalling? What do they need to stonewall for if they're all in the right?
Because you know what the Congress is going to do. The Democratic Congress is going to look to any point they can do to obstruct Trump and his agenda.
No, we're just asking to see if the law is followed. Trump's major problem was he never divested. And the fact that he did not divest means he's. Adam Schiff said they have not received any counterintelligence information that they were supposed to, and they've been stonewalling on that for months upon months.
Yeah,
but the key thing is, was the president compromised because of his business dealings with Russia?
He wasn't. Mueller's report said there was no collusion.
Why did he lie? He worked on that Trump Tower in Moscow for years. Why did he lie about it?
He didn't lie. He told the truth. It was his attorney that lied.
No, Trump said several times, "I have no business with Russia." Period.
Well, he didn't.
No business with. He did. He had a they have a signed contract, Phil.
They did not go through with that deal.
No. You don't have to finish something to have business with somebody for years. He's been trying for years to get the Trump Tower in Moscow. Only Putin can give him that. Putin's the only person in the entire world that he hasn't said something bad about. It's obvious that Putin is holding something over Trump's head.
Well, maybe it's obvious that he's not going to be able to negotiate the things he needs to with Putin if he says bad things about the guy.
No. You don't kowtow to everybody. Is he kowtowing to Maduro? No. Down in Venezuela? No, he's not.
No, because Maduro's starving his people. Did you see them run over somebody with an armored vehicle today?
Right.
Yeah, well, Phil, we understand that. We feel for the Venezuelan people, and we have for the longest time.
But the blockade is helping Russia because it's raised the price of oil. The blockade on oil with the oil sanctions against Iran.
Okay.
The whole idea for that was to raise prices for oil to help Russia out because they're dying. They need the price of oil up.
I found the even amid the blowback against Barr's initial summary, though it wasn't clear that Mueller himself personally disputed it. So, Mueller didn't dispute it. This is hyperbole.
No, it doesn't say that.
Wait a minute, hold on a second, Eddie. What were you going to say?
It says it wasn't clear that he disputed it or didn't dispute it.
Even it wasn't clear that Mueller himself personally disputed it.
That doesn't mean he did or didn't. It means it's not clear.
Well, either he did, he didn't. If he didn't, he didn't.
It's still we don't know. That's why we need to have Mueller testify. We don't know.
Well, let him testify. I don't know that they're blocking that stuff. They just didn't want McCabe to testify.
Why didn't they want McCabe to testify?
Because he was the attorney, and there should be some attorney-client privilege.
I've told you the theory on Jack's show. I'm convinced that Barr wants to be vice president. They're pushing. Pence does not meet with. There are already rumblings on CNN. Has had a couple of reports that the party wants Pence off the ticket. Pence and Trump do not have lunch together anymore. And Trump would owe the vice presidential slot to Barr for saving him from this mess. Just wait and see.
I doubt it.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not true, but
I'm just throwing that out there. We'll see what happens.
Here comes the big here comes the big $64 question, as they used to say in the old days when I was a young kid, and that is, do you feel that? And I'm not asking you, Phil. I'm asking the rest of the people here. Okay. Do you feel that and it looks like Biden is really very much in the lead among the Democrats. Do you think that's the Democrats' best shot? I'll start with Charlie, because Charlie always has an opinion on these sort of things. Well, we can't hear you, Charlie. Turn on your microphone. Okay.
No, I don't think Biden is the best shot.
You don't think he has the best shot?
No.
Why don't you think he has the best shot?
Well, because he's made a lot of gaffes in the past, and I think he'll make a bunch of gaffes over the next, campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. So you think he's vulnerable? You think he's vulnerable, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Eddie? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think he's got. Plus, there's a whole group of people that attack him for this creepiness, supposed creepiness.
The uncle creepiness.
Uncle creepy, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is BS, but I think that they'll just harp on it and keep harping and drive it into the ground.
How about you?
I'm sure to affect him.
How about you, Jeff?
I'm a little concerned about anybody who's on the list. Of the 22 people that are on the list, or whatever it is today, there's just a tremendous number of people, and I really don't have any clear direction from anybody there. And so I'm kind of like, I'm waiting to hear better descriptions about what they really want to accomplish.
Tim, how about you?
Well, a couple things. What Biden's gaffes? You know, a dozen gaffes against 10,000 lies from Trump.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, I'll throw this out there, and this is crazy world too, but if Biden stays that high in the polls, I think he should pick Clinton as a running mate. Because we owe it to her, but that's just.
I don't think I disagree with you, Tim. I don't think we owe Hillary Clinton anything. I think she lost a one race. Okay.
She
blew it.
Well,
she blew it.
Yeah.
Now that's my crazy idea, but I think I would like to see Elizabeth Warren because can get stuff done. She's smart, and she had the rally going down in Texas.
Okay, now wait a minute. Hold on a second. Not yet, Phil. I know you're dying to say something.
I was doing the tomahawk chop.
But my question to you, Tim, is: do you really think that's a winning ticket?
Well,
I mean, maybe that's your dream ticket, but is that a winning ticket?
Well, a lot of people are pushing Biden and then Kamala Harris, and she's good too. She's good.
Well, between Biden and Clinton, they've lost, I think, 5 presidential campaigns.
Yeah. Look at Phil. He's going crazy, folks. Yes, Phil.
All right. I think what we have with Biden was what we had with Hillary, that the polls are propelling him and saying he's the absolute front runner. He's the best thing since sliced bread. He's 26 points ahead. There's no way he could lose. He could beat Trump right now. He could beat Trump in 6 months. They said the same thing about Hillary, but and when against not only against Trump but against Bernie Sanders.
Hey Phil, they were right. She won by 3 million votes.
Yeah, let me finish.
They were right.
No, they were talking about electoral college votes.
Oh no, we're talking about popular. But go ahead.
All right, whatever you want to believe, dream on. But so what I'm saying about Biden is that he's the sweetheart of the media. He's the sweetheart of the DNC. And if they could get away with super delegates again, they'd give them the super delegates. And I think that what we've got here is they know that these other people don't have a chance in hell it's like an ice cube in hell. They don't have any chance of winning. Maybe Biden, maybe he's the only one that might be sane enough to run. And so they're rigging the system again, just like they did with Hillary.
I'm still going door to door for Avenatti, so
I bet.
Right.
You're going door to door for Art Bell.
Yeah. Well, I think
Oprah's quitting her 60 Minutes. Maybe she's going to run.
No, you know why she's quitting 60 Minutes? Alex is giving her a slot on Gab. Hey, wait a minute. Alex is giving her a slot on Gabnet.
Actually, the reason she left 60 Minutes a long time ago, and her whole deal now is with Apple, okay, for their little channel, which I, quite frankly, I don't see it's going to be a big deal.
She's going to be the anchor store.
Yeah, something like that. Here's the point. We're a year and a half away from the election. I mean, to say that anybody is ahead now is ridiculous because, if this were many, many years ago, Obama wouldn't even be in the top 5. It's a matter of time, and I just think, I think we're doing this too early. I really do. Yeah. I think that none of these candidates should have come forward until maybe at least October, November, to give them a little run ahead of the Iowa caucus and the Vermont primary, is it Vermont primaries?
Well, you have to go to public funded primaries, Alex, to get rid of that because they got to raise a lot of money now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that those primaries are still a long stretch away. I don't think anybody should be running for president right now. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, but they have to because they need the money.
Because think of all the money. Think of all the money that it costs us. Think of what it costs the states just to run primaries. That's why I honestly believe we should do away with primaries.
Yeah.
You know that Trump he declared early in his first thing because he's been raising money ever since. I don't know how many text messages I get a day from Trump things.
He declared the day after the inauguration.
Yeah, he started his re-election campaign.
Well, the other thing, the reason they raise money early is I'd like to get paid to take a free vacation around the United States. I might run a campaign just so I can go from state to state and see all 50 of them. Sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, okay.
No, well, there's too much. There's too many things they're allowed to spend their campaign money on.
We've got another person on the phone. Who have we got?
Jack.
Jack, is it you, Jack? You know, Jack, I wish you would use your video because, quite frankly, it screws up our whole. You know.
You're going to need him to show him how to get a personal Skype account.
Hey, I'll take care of that for you. You know, sometimes I think it's a good idea to ask your opponent, who would you hate to face? So, Phil, who would Trump hate to face?
Jack Bishop.
Getting serious. Go as far and as deep into the Democratic Party as you want. Who would Trump hate to face?
Well, the current field, I don't think shows anyone that would be any good.
Okay, now I said.
Hey, to begin with, Jack, don't ask Phil. He's not going to give you. You know, ask Charlie, ask Jeff, ask Eddie. You know,
ask Alex because I don't know that many
ask Tim.
Democrats that aren't in jail.
Ask Tim.
So
No, yeah, but you see, Jack. Those are the kind of answers you're going to get out of Phil, and they're not worth taking your time asking.
Had to do it. Get you on the other side of the top of the hour.
Okay.
Hey, Jack, let me rephrase your question.
Yeah, all I'm saying to you, Jack, is that he's not going to give you any other meaningful answer.
I don't know. I don't know who he wouldn't want to face because I don't think there's anyone out there that he would back away from.
Yeah.
Let's change the question. Who would Fox News hate to go up against?
Good question.
I don't know. You know,
I would say AOC if she was old enough.
Nah.
Because they go out and bash her quite a bit.
Nah. You know, she's a flash in the pan. She won't be around for the next election. And the Democrats will make sure that doesn't happen.
They're estimating her to Farrell.
He'll be around.
Yeah, she'll be tending bar.
They said that
And
about
you
Jennifer
base
Lopez.
Phil, you base that on what?
She's doing nothing for her constituents. She's lost 25,000.
I'm her constituents. I'm her constituents,
with Amazon.
Phil. I'm one of her constituents technically, and quite frankly, I think she's doing fine. I think she's doing just great.
But the 25,000 people.
She's not a flash in the pan, Phil. Wait until you see this woman is going to become a force in the Democratic Party.
Just no way.
And you've heard her constituents complaining.
Yeah, and including Pelosi.
Pelosi isn't her constituency.
Well, it's Pelosi that's running the show. Pelosi's going to make sure that she gets challenged by somebody that will fall in lockstep with them.
Hey, this is a new era of politics. You know, one thing about AOC is she has learned from Trump the ongoing political rally.
Wait a minute.
So
wait a minute.
Have you heard
anti-Semitic, Phil? How do you get that AOC is anti-Semitic?
Well, Tlaib and the Somalian one in Michigan.
Yeah.
And AOC, she was being. They were talking about AOC that she was twittering about her Netflix documentary and didn't say a word about the Christian church that got shot up.
But you haven't shown me. You haven't shown me how AOC is anti-Semitic. You haven't shown me how AOC is anti-Semitic.
I'm talking about the new.
No. How is she anti-Semitic, Phil?
Maybe she's not anti-Semitic.
In fact, I believe. Am I not correct? I think. Wait a minute. Hold on a second, Phil. Is not her boyfriend Jewish?
No. He's either Indian or something like that. It's the guy who stole the $1 million. Yeah, he's not Jewish. But the Tlaib and the other one are making anti-Semitic statements, and they're part of that new crop.
By the way, you know what's wonderful tonight is I'm not out of sync, but you are.
Yeah, it's the new crop of.
They are not making anti-Semitic statements. They are miscarrying.
Somebody knocked the tower down.
What they're saying.
It was
saying that I
somebody.
don't support the right-wing government of Israel.
Oh, and the Jews are buying the government. They're buying it. They're buying the votes. No. Not
one of them ever said that.
That's what the Somalian said.
Saying that was Donald Trump.
No, that's what the Somalian said. She said the Jews are buying the votes. And they sanctioned it. They said that was wrong. They wanted her to apologize, but they never took her out.
Phil, you hear this stuff out of the side of your right-wing press, and you don't come up with a really coherent reason why she's.
Well,
you still haven't told me why she's anti-Semitic.
Because of her statements about Israel and the Jews.
I'll make those same statements about Israel and the Jews. I happen to agree with her.
Yeah, well,
I'm not anti-Semitic, am I?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm anti-Semitic.
About AIPAC buying the government.
Yeah, you're a Shonda for the Goyim.
And CARE doesn't buy the government. You know, they'll just chop your head off if you make a cartoon.
But by the way, are you still there, Jack? I think Jack left. Oh, okay. Well, then
the New York Times came up with anti-Semitic cartoons. We've got a problem with anti-Semitism, not only in Europe but in the United States.
Donald Trump.
Well, Donald Trump is far from an anti-Semite.
Oh, I think he is.
He's supported Israel. He's the Jew's best friend.
No, if he's he's not this Jew's best friend. Let me say that right now. He's more pro-Jewish than any other president, especially Obama. Really?
Yeah.
Because of the Israel issue.
Part of it.
Obama sent them more aid than all the previous presidents.
Right.
I don't know that to be a fact.
Well, it is.
Well, it is. Look it up.
If you can find those anti-Semitic statements, Phil, send them to me on Facebook, and I'll post them to the other Gabnet Live.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I will.
Okay. Anyway, hey, there's the theme. Thank God it's playing. Well, we seem to have not been too much out of sync. The only person out of sync tonight has been Phil, but then again, that's always the case. Tomorrow night will be a Phil-free night, so feel free to call. Meanwhile, thank you, Phil, for being here tonight. Thank you, Eddie, for your joining us. Tim, thank you. Thank you, Charlie, and thank you to Jeff. Those are all the fine people on our citizen panel. And if they would all wave goodbye, I'll wave back. Okay, there they go. All right. Okay.
Good night.
And I'm out of sync until I hang up on these people for my video, and then all of a sudden I will get back in sync. See how that happens? Is that not amazing? That would not happen with my new machine, but unfortunately, it's being fixed. And what can I say? Anyway, that's it. Jack is next. I'm sorry I got rid of Jack kind of soon because I really prefer people use Skype to call because it is, let's face it, mainly a visual program these days. But I do thank Jack for calling as well. He is next with the intersection. I want you to stay tuned for that, and I want you to call him. He's next over most of the Sam Gabnet. Tomorrow night, at 8:30 Eastern Time, It's the sports show, which is the Arena with the franchise MC, followed by Damian Chaplin in the Exchange. And then I'll be back here again, 10 o'clock, same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, as always, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.